Two, three.
Hopefully it works well. Hey Ryan, how are you doing? Thanks for joining. Already introduced you a little bit on the podcast there, but this is Ryan Benson. You can follow Ryan at Ryan Benson on Twitter. Wanted to have him on the podcast just to chat about his love of Sevilla, what his new gig is. He's a journalist, if you didn't know that already, and he's got a new gig, so we're excited to hear about what that's going to entail. And then we're going to talk about the Sevilla season a little bit and what's coming up in the future. So, Ryan, welcome to the podcast, man. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it's been very much aware of Monchi's Men now for probably like as long as you guys have been sort of around, to be honest, from back in the beginning of the blog. So it's cool to actually. Man. Cool first to actually, like speak to you face to face as well for the first time. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, definitely. 13 years now the blog's been around. That's
that's good going. Very good going.
Yeah, it's cool to see it kind of like changing and new members and old members, and it's awesome. We're also looking forward to like our San Francisco trip this year. With the team coming in, so I think there's gonna be a lot of people get together for that. So hopefully that'd be awesome. But anyway, yes, you're in the UK, right? Tell us a little bit about how you became a Sevilla fan.
Yeah, so maybe I should whisper this bit first. But I initially actually quite liked Malaga. Partly, I really liked their sort of the two strikers that they had, Julio Dele Valdez and Dario Silva. And it was Dario Silva who he was kind of like my favorite player around that era, and then moved to Sevilla in I think it was 2003. It was 2002 or 2003, and I sort of just started watching Sevilla games and playing with them on FIFA and things like that because of Dario Silva, and it just sort of progressed from there. And so I went to Sevilla for the first time in 2005. Saw Sevilla beat Numancia 1-0. And it was like by this point, like my kind of interest in Sevilla was strong. Like I already knew all the players, and I'd be watching them like most weeks at home on Sky Sports and stuff. And it was just like that experience kind of like just like seemed just cemented and solidified everything about it for me. It was like the city was great. The stadium, I loved the stadium, and seeing like the mosaic for the first time, and then like the players. It was like it was a young team that really was easy to grasp the sort of the imagination of. Well, I'd say pretty much any football fan, but like a young football fan, So I mean, in that team that started, obviously had Sergio Ramos, Adriano, Navas, Dani Alves was on the bench and came on in the second half, I think. Julio Baptista was suspended that weekend. So didn't get to see him, unfortunately. But it was Carlos Aranda who started up front, and he didn't have a very good game. But, and then it sort of all just snowballed from there, really. I mean, it was very much a case of being a fan from afar for quite a long time. Obviously, I was, I mean, when I went into 2005, I was only like 13. So it was kind of a case of, watching from afar for a while, being a fan from afar for a while. And then eventually managed to sort of, the first time I went back to Sevilla after that probably wasn't until about 2012. But me and my friends, we didn't organize it particularly well. because you know how the classic La Liga fixture scheduling issues that happen at the start of the season when they'll put a load of games in, but then they obviously go in. They remove a weekend or two because of the international break. Well, me and my friends fell foul of that, so loads of the fixtures got moved around. So we ended up like our week in Seville ended up being like, right, well, we land in Sevilla. The next morning, we got a coach up to Madrid. And this was basically just so we could go and watch Sevilla play Rayo Vallecano. And we did that, and we had a couple of nights in Madrid, and then went back on the coach to Sevilla for a few days, and just hung out and drank beer and stuff in Sevilla. So and then ever since then, sort of actually being an adult who could go do whatever they wanted or whatever. Been back to Sevilla quite a lot. I've got a few friends and stuff there now, and been to Europa League final, been to a few of the derbies, and I've even sort of been to a couple of games of them over here because I'm originally I'm a Manchester United supporter. Manchester United's my English team, so obviously this season 2 weeks ago was weird and very conflicting. But then obviously it was the Europa League a few years ago, semi-final, and then the actual when they played in the Champions League.
Champions League, yeah.
So I was at the game at Old Trafford, and I was with my my girlfriend, and then my brother, who is a Man United fan. That's his team, so he doesn't really have Sevilla like I do, and then so being that it was such a weird experience, sort of like kind of like I think I was sort of more rooting for Sevilla just because it was like, but if Sevilla beat Man United, that's like a way bigger deal. It means way more for them than vice versa.
Yeah,
and like Sevilla getting to the Champions League quarterfinals for the first time was obviously a big deal as well. And So, but back to the original point. It was all started back then, 2002, 2003, and it's snowballed from there, and it's still probably as passionate about them as I've ever been.
That's awesome. That's really cool that you wear the badge too. I mean, proudly on your Twitter page there, you say it. A lot of journalists have like their team, but they're kind of afraid to put it out there. Hey, I'm a Sevilla fan or whoever, and they don't want to choose. But
I mean, like maybe I wouldn't. Maybe it would be a bit different if I if I worked like exclusively on like Spanish football, for example. At the same time, I don't have like Man United supporter in my bio,
sure,
because they're obviously a club that I sort of do cover a bit more. But at the same time, I think one of the things for me on Twitter ever since I've been on, and obviously being aware of you guys for ages, having like just some like Sevilla in my bio, I don't know, it obviously attracts like sort of fellow like-minded fans and things like that, and those are the sort of people that you want to have on your timeline or occasionally chatting to or whatever, whether it's DMs or just through just general tweets. So I really I've always really liked the sort of the Twitter community that the club seems to have. Also in my little echo chamber anyway, the people I follow, and obviously the longer I've sort of been sort of tweeting about Sevilla, the more I sort of see find like English language people tweeting in English about Sevilla. I know a bit of Spanish, but it's not great. Thankfully, the little translation tool on Twitter is very helpful. But,
definitely.
No, it's I like the community that's sort of there, and I think it's been a very good time to be a Sevilla fan generally. maybe not so much this season, but yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah, somebody on the forums posted, about this season. It was like, all is well if we win the Europa. Like it's a successful season at that point, right? Like, who cares about the troubles in the league? If that happens, it's magic, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's difficult to disagree with that. At least, yeah, if they were go and win it, then obviously, yeah, you've got the actual success. It's still sort of it's feeding the whole kind of severe romanticism with the Europa League, which is obviously that's all a great story in itself. And then obviously if you win it, you're back in the Champions League. So it kind of sort of helps to negate to an extent, I guess, everything that's happened in La Liga, which obviously it's been a pretty difficult season. It's probably and in terms of like the football that's been played for the most part, it's probably been like probably the worst season, I think, personally, since Manzano was in charge, and that season was just dull, just boring. It was a dull football. The recruitment around that time was obviously challenging, and this season maybe this season I guess you would consider to be worse just because of the general expectations and like the general quality of the squad as well, better than it was then. But win the Europa League and we can just forget about everything else.
Definitely mask a lot of problems, doesn't it?
Exactly.
The Champions League money will help a lot in whatever we need to do. Speaking of that, I mean, we all kind of know the season. We won't dwell on that too much, but coming up in the summer, what kind of scenarios do you see playing out for this squad? Do you think Mendelebar will continue? Are there some caveats to making that happen? Do you see Monchi sticking around? Do you think he might be looking for a way out or a way to pass the torch? And then squad progression. There's a lot of, unknowns with the squad. Everybody's under contract now with Godelli kind of, the rumors are he re-signed. So nothing official from the team, I don't think yet. But everybody's under contract. So that means people are going to have to move out. And if that can happen, and I think that's the big thing is if. So kind of lead us down that path. What do you envision happening this summer around those questions?
Yeah, I suppose a lot of it will come down to, obviously, yeah, you mentioned Monchi. A lot of it comes down to him, really, because I've just got this feeling that he'll move on. And again, I guess he'll know in his head whether that's going to happen or not. So either way, I would think that hopefully he'll have a lot of plans already in place. Unlike, say, like last summer when it was, everything kind of happened quite late and you could, in the way that the kind of the scattergun approach almost of them in the transfer market, it felt, like it was some sort of reactionary panic buying a little bit. That's what it felt like anyway.
Sure.
So I think it kind of, a lot of it will hinge on Monchi and whether he goes. Yeah, and I think he probably will. So will he get a lot of planning done, or will he will be sort of take a step back and be right? Well, if I know I'm going to leave, I'm not going to start building a squad for someone else because someone else might not want any of those players or anything. So I get everything sort of comes down to him almost. And then in terms of Mendelebar, I think, in a way, it stems from the same issue, because I don't think if Monchi's already decided he's going to leave, it's unlikely then that he's going to give Mendelebar a new contract. So it kind of comes down to whoever comes in. But then if another sporting director comes in and then wants to bring in another coach, it's so much upheaval. when Mendeleev obviously come in, the players have responded well. Like, you look at the results they've got and the actual kind of the character and mentality that they're showing. Obviously, like when they came back from 2-1 down to win 3-2 last week, he's getting results, and you can sort of see, there's some engagement. There's engagement from the players, and he's kind of getting those results sort of literally, and in terms of like the kind of performance level. So I mean, I think if it was me, I'd be inclined to give him another season. He's done well. Yeah, I would say he's done what the club would have asked him to, which is to quite comfortably get out of the kind of the relegation scrap, and then I don't think anyone would have expected him to get to the semi-finals of the Europa League.
Yeah,
I think even regardless of whether he was kind of given 2 rounds or 1 round. I mean, like, no, I don't think anyone expected them to get past Man United, for example.
sure, no.
So I mean, I in terms of him, I think he's done enough to earn a kind of a proper crack at it. But I think it comes back again to Monchi and Monchi's future. So I think it all comes back to him, and I don't think he'll stick around. But I would hope that if he has decided that, he sort of basically announces it right after the last game of the season or whatever, so they can just get on with it. Let's not have it like dragging out or anything.
Yeah.
And just let's get it sorted. Because I mean, the thing is, obviously, he's being linked with Tottenham now that obviously Fabio Paratici's had to leave them, and obviously he speaks English. He's he's a known fan of English football, and it would be a very, very good opportunity, both in terms of money and in terms of where Spurs are at the moment, like fan happiness in terms of the club and the regime is probably like an all-time low over the last 20 years. So he might even see that as an opportunity to go in and build from the bottom and sort of raise, get rid of everything and build everything in his own sort of image. Whether he'd be allowed to do that is another debate. But, it always is with Sevilla. It always is an interesting summer.
Yeah.
But it sort of feels like to me that Monchi might sort of just take this as an opportunity to be right, start anew and let Sevilla start anew again.
That's interesting. I hope it doesn't happen. Just I mean, I've become such a fan of Monty, but it's what he wants, right? Like, I think the team will stick with him no matter what. Maybe 3 more seasons like this, maybe not. But the fans, of course, made a lot of noise this year about the summer. But I think Sevilla fans are pretty realistic and understand that we've had 20 years of Monchi, and it's been mostly good. And you don't always get that in football, especially with a team like him. So losing a guy like that could change our direction as a club, and it's
for sure. I mean, even obviously, I mean, we don't even have to go back that far. You think about when he left last time, and Oscar Arias came in, and that was a bit of a mess, really. And obviously, then Monchi coming back quite quickly after that. It just seems to like his goal, his sort of Midas touch returned, in that sort of that first window. Mm-hmm. Think about those, the players that he brought in. There's some absolute what he built the squad. He turned a middling squad. He turned it into one that won the Europa League straight away.
Yeah.
Obviously brought in some great players. It will be. Yeah, I mean, I would hope that the club maybe has a good contingency plan in place. I mean, I wouldn't surprise me. Obviously, Victor Orta obviously worked at the club before. He's just lost his job at Leeds. It wouldn't surprise me if he was someone that they perhaps looking at as maybe a replacement. And to be fair to Orta, he did a good job at Leeds initially. The last year or so, less so. And I'm not necessarily certain. I'm certainly not saying it should be him or anything. I'm sure there's people out there who've got far better knowledge of sporting directors than I have, but that would seem like a fairly obvious link. But I mean, I have to say, I would hope that Monchi does stay and sort of gives himself the opportunity to sort of right the wrongs, so to speak, for this season. Because I mean, I'm sure he everyone knows what he's like. He's he's a perfectionist, extremely aware of. He'll be extremely aware of what's gone wrong and things of what not to do. I mean, you just have to look at the sort of how the club sort of operated in January, but then obviously the lead up to January, basically getting rid of loads of the players that were brought in last summer. So if anyone knows what's gone wrong, it'll be Monchi. And hopefully he kind of maybe gives himself that opportunity to set things right almost, because I think it would be a shame if he left again after this season, given how difficult it's been for everyone. And obviously Europa League aside. So hopefully gives himself that. If he gives himself that opportunity, I hope.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially with how competitive he is. Like, it seems like he would want that opportunity to redeem himself. One thing that what I think is happening, and this is just me guessing, and when Monchi came back, they brought in Fernando Navarro as kind of his sidekick, and that was the year that they came to they came to Dallas and Boston here in the U.S. And I spent a little time down in Dallas with the team, and wherever Monchi went, Fernando was right beside him. Like, I think that's what he's doing, is kind of grooming, and evidently Navarro was kind of involved in some of these negotiations, like Mendelebar. They said that he actually negotiated that deal. So I'm wondering if that was kind of his way of grooming for his future replacement. That's my guess. I don't know.
I know. I think that makes sense. To be honest, I've kind of completely forgotten that Navarro had been around. And I mean, I guess that's Navarro's now sort of in the role that Arias was in, I guess.
Yeah.
Similar anyway. And so, I mean, that would make sense. I guess that was maybe potentially an issue, with the last sort of handover and succession. Maybe this time it would be a case. Obviously, Navarro hasn't had the kind of the head honcho role before, and to go into that for the first time at a club like Sevilla, certainly this Sevilla, rather than the Sevilla that Monchi kind of came. Monchi went into that role at a point when Sevilla were, I mean, in crisis, and so maybe putting Navarro into that situation. I mean, maybe he'd fancy it. Maybe he'd fancy himself as being able to handle that, having learnt from Monchi. I can't help thinking that maybe bringing in another guy who's actually done that role, maybe that might be the way to go. But I suppose Navarro knows the club. He knows the people above him, and for a sense of maybe continuity within the sort of the recruitment and handling the scouting, everything. Maybe Navarro would be the best way to go. But hopefully We don't
have to worry.
have to actually think about. Hopefully, all this speculation
Yeah.
is just purely
Just for
that.
not. It's a great conversation, and who knows with the boardroom drama that could throw everything off if that happens, right? Like,
yeah, that's it.
it's such a unknown there. But you started a new gig recently, right? With Opta Analyst, right? And you want to talk about that? What you're going to be doing there? And as a soccer fan that loves stats, it seems like a dream come true, to be honest. So, tell us a little bit about the company and what you'll be doing there.
Yeah, so I was so Opta is owned by a company called Stats Perform. So I was already working within the company, but I was working specifically in news. Sadly, the team I was working in was sort of discontinued, so people were made redundant. But some jobs came up elsewhere in the company, and so the analyst is sort of Opta's the kind of the shiny new thing in the company, if you like. It's all about, rather than kind of going business to business, it's more about actually producing the content with the data that Opta owns, using our own data and creating content around that. So data-driven storytelling is sort of like the kind of the main aim of most of what we'd be doing. So it's trying to find sort of interesting angles in like any type of data in football. So like a good piece that they did quite recently, just before I joined, was like looking at sort of like ball in play stats and like how many minutes per game and everything. So trying to kind of like linking it to time wasting and things like that. And it blew up because the piece was done like around a time when there were lots of people sort of moaning about Newcastle United time wasting. And so then this piece by the analyst sort of showed actually, Newcastle ball in play is in the least, and so like it's like time wasting. Well, there you go. It's sort of that's why everyone is sort of saying that they're bad time wasters. And then so a piece that myself and another guy who works for the company are going to be doing next week. In fact, it's Robbie Dunn. Robbie Dunn was one of my colleagues. So he's quite a prominent like Spanish football writer. He's done quite a lot of stuff over the years. He's a Rayo Vallecano fan. But we're doing a piece sort of looking at the kind of the red card situation in La Liga, because now I haven't looked at the stats like in the last couple of days, but when I looked at them, I think it was like last Tuesday, Wednesday, there was 122 in La Liga, and then by comparison, there'd been 29 in the Premier League. So there's been nearly 100 more this season in La Liga, and then after second behind La Liga's the French Ligue 1, and that at the time it was 89, so still like way more in La Liga. Yeah, and obviously the referees situation in La Liga is obviously quite an interesting topic at the moment, and so see. Not just the kind of the Negreira case, but obviously just the general criticism of referees and just ridiculous red cards. Obviously, Sevilla have had, I think, more than their fair share. I mean, and to be fair, Betis as well have had some pretty dodgy ones in the last few weeks. And then obviously last year, like the Canales getting his like whatever it was 4-match ban for ridiculous. So that's something we're going to look into the data behind the red cards, and basically sort of highlight how unusual this season has been in terms of like the red cards. And
what you're gonna find? I actually did that, like a little bit of that analysis recently, and what I found, I went back 5 years, and La Liga is consistently number one, and it's by a wide margin. And I'm interested to read your piece on that, because that's something that I've been kind of passionate about recently, is just how how bad, I won't say bad, but just how overzealous they are. Maybe the referees. There's a bug flying around in front of me, babe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like,
Seems
I mean,
personal.
yeah. I don't really get some of the refereeing. It's like it's so it's so picky. It's like you watch a Premier League game. I certainly don't want to be like one of these people that sort of think, oh, Premier League, best league in the world, like that sort of thing. But if you watch like and yeah, don't get me wrong, Premier League has plenty of issues with referees and things like that as well. But if you watch the Premier League, there's far more of a tendency to let play go. Like, okay, then yeah, maybe a few little like fouls and stuff might get missed, and like nothing's perfect. But I mean, the Sevilla game last week was a classic example. It was so bad. There was so many just little fouls. I mean, Brian Hill seemed to be involved in most of them, one way or another. Like I think he got penalised for somehow managing to to actually shoulder barge a player. It was just a shoulder to shoulder. Little wiry Brian Hill comes out on top, and he gets penalised for it. It's like, what? It's just like things like that. Like that game, I just found myself getting so frustrated with like it impacted the kind of the entertainment value of the game significantly. I thought, and given I would say I'm someone that thinks that the general entertainment value in La Liga has dropped significantly over the last few years, and I just think part of it is down to really picky refereeing, giving fouls for almost anything, any kind of like contact. It's it's all a bit of a shame. But that's like one example of sort of piece that we'll be able to look at, and hopefully down the line there'll be lots more of like find like little interesting little facts like that around red cards, and be able to explore them more than maybe I would have in any sort of other job before. So I think it should be quite an exciting, interesting role, and hopefully plenty of interesting things to write about.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't imagine having access to all that data and just the things you can pull from. It's going to be interesting.
I mean, in my previous role, I had access to quite a lot of the same stuff, and I did use data quite a lot. But now we've been shown sort of other parts that aren't other sort of data resources that we didn't have access to before because they aren't specifically tools. It's like manual data that are kept in like Excel files and stuff. And honestly, I was like blown away by kind of like the depth of some of this stuff. It's incredible. And so almost a little bit overwhelming in a way. It's like, I want to use all this, but like how? Like how do you do it in a coherent way? So like the possibilities are endless, and hopefully in time that will translate into some interesting features and articles and stuff, and hopefully won't get blown away by it all. But I mean, honestly, like the kind of the sheer amount of data that the company has is it's incredible, and we're already seeing sort of examples of that, what you can actually find out with that sort of thing. And it's quite exciting, I have to say. Again, someone who's always been really interested in sports data, and to be honest, like sport data and sort of the level of interest that there is in stats is becoming more and more, I would say, in football, soccer. And I think part of that is kind of it's like the US sports like rubbing off on the rest of on other sports, given obviously particular basketball, NFL, and like the kind of the access to the average person can have such good access to data with those sports. And I think given given again that those sports are becoming much more popular over here, I would guess the rest of Europe as well. I think that kind of that interest in stats and data is it's rubbing off on soccer, and so I can't see that going away anytime soon. I imagine it's just going to keep getting more and more. Like, I don't know if it was the same like over in the States, but certainly over here, sort of if I'm watching, say, like Sky Sports, and they've got watching it, sort of any Premier League match on Sky Sports, they start bringing up like little tables and showing quite. I mean, what I would say like quite niche stats in a way. Like, it was Brighton against Man United the other day. Comes up with a little table in the bottom corner saying Mitoma had like 15 touches in the box or something, and that was like the most by a Brighton player, joint most or something by a Brighton player in any Premier League game ever. There's like things like that popping up. There's like They're doing that clearly because there's an interest in that sort of thing from kind of the average watcher, and so things like that are just getting more and more ingrained in the sport, and so from my perspective, it's very exciting, and hopefully that interest will. Hopefully I can keep. I can help feed that interest. Hopefully,
that's awesome. I think we're getting a little gypped here in the U.S. with that kind of data. We haven't seen that, at least in the La Liga games. I haven't seen any of that. But every now and again we'll get something cute from the announcers, but nothing that in depth on pop-ups and stuff. But I'm an IT guy from my real job is an IT job, and I do a lot of data analytics through that. So data is just like my kingdom there, and I just kind of gets me going. So I'm a little jealous of that, being able to access all that, and it's really cool. Do you want to give any kind of shout outs, what you're working on, like how we could follow your work? I know Twitter, of course, but anything else that you want to holler about?
Yeah, well, by all means, just follow me on Twitter. As you mentioned it earlier on, Ryan Benson. No, my middle name isn't Ryan as well. It was just at the time it was a Ryan Benson. There was another Ryan Benson on Twitter at the time. I'd say just follow me on there, and have a look on the Analyst Twitter. Twitter is in my bio as well. So if you're interested in sports data, football data, but they doing plenty of US sports and stuff as well. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, then check out the Analyst, and I'm sure you won't regret it.
That's awesome. Well, we'll wrap it up there. I appreciate you joining. This was awesome to get caught up on you and learning more about yourself and how you became a Sevilla fan. And the Monchi conversation was both depressing and and really good. So thanks so much for joining. I'd love to have you back sometime. So open invitation anytime you want to come on.
Nice one. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. Really, happy to finally come on and and finally meet you as well. So it's been great. Thanks for having me on, and I'll definitely keep you posted if I've got something interesting to say. Anyway.
Yeah, perfect. All right, Ryan. Thank you so much.